Hi, everybody. I'm Naomi Robbins. I'm Naomi Robbins, the organizer of the New York Meetup, in case anyone doesn't know me. The New York Data Visualization Meetup welcomes all the other groups here tonight. We're one of the largest groups. Only DC has more members. And judging from your web pages, we're one of the most active. 2 future events will be posted after tonight's session. The first will be another joint event that Randy will tell you about soon. Then on July 16th, Jean-Luc Dumont will speak to the New York Meetup on making sense of scales and graphs. One of the benefits of these virtual events is that we can invite speakers that we could never afford to bring to New York to speak in person. Jean-Luc is in Belgium, and he's absolutely an outstanding speaker. We also welcome all the first-timers here tonight. Steve, thank you for attracting so many to our meetup. Tonight would not be possible if not for 2 people. The first is Cameron Yix from Data Dog, who has sponsored and hosted many of our events. Cameron has given so much of his time to us, and he's responsible for much of our success. The second person to thank is Randy Crum. Randy suggested having the joint events, and he's always ready to assist the other groups in any way he can. Both Cameron and Randy will now say a few words. Cameron?
Hello, everyone. So thank you, Naomi, for that very kind introduction. So Datadog is sponsoring our webinar this evening. Datadog is a cloud monitoring solution for all kinds of software. We work on a variety of interesting data visualization problems. So if you're a designer or a developer or data analyst looking for a job, we have an open careers page that you can check out after the event. And that's it for me.
Randy?
Oh, that was short and to the point. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Naomi. Hey, everybody. My name is Randy Crum. I'll show you real quick. I run the Data Viz Meetup group in Dallas-Fort Worth, where we're just getting up maybe half the size of Naomi's group in New York. We're about 4,200 members now.
Over 7,700.
Yeah, we're about half. Yep. I think Will in DC, I think you're right, has the largest group. And then earlier this year, I started up a group in Austin because there was a big demand for data and data viz in Austin. They're just about to hit 100 members. So we're great to see people from Austin in Texas as well. And if you had a chance to show the map real quick, we've been doing these joint events, just a couple so far, and had some pretty good success. Doing these joint events that while things are virtual, we can get a speaker and share the event and share with memberships, because we're all looking for speakers and we're all looking for events to do all over the country. And so we have 13 now groups that are actively helping us participate and find speakers and promote the events and that sort of thing. So what are we up to? We're up to, looks like 226 logged in so far. So it really helps us get bigger events and bigger audiences for our speakers as well. As Naomi mentioned, we do happen to know, it's not posted very widely yet, that our next joint event, the next one that's going to be widely available to multiple data viz groups, is going to be on June 30th. It's going to be with Mariah Meyer talking about research through the practice of data visualization and what you learn by visualizing research data. And so that's going to be put on by the Utah Data Viz group. So they're going to host it, but we're all going to promote it and make it available to all of our membership. And so I know they've posted it. I'm in the process now of putting it up on both the Dallas and the Austin groups. It's not up yet, but it's going to be up very, very shortly. And you'll see it pop up in many of the other meetup groups as well. And so then, thank you. I will stop there and back out and give it back to you, Naomi.
Okay. Cameron mentioned that Datadog is hiring. If anybody else is hiring, please list your contact information and details of your position in the chat box. Of course, you want the chat box going to everybody, not just the panelists. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Steve Wexler. Steve is a multi-talented member of our group. He excels in music as well as data visualization. And if you were not aware of it, that was Steve's music that you heard as you were joining the room. As I say, he is multi-talented. Tonight, he'll be speaking to us about why dashboards fail and what we can do to ensure they succeed. We'll be raffling a copy of his new book, The Big Picture, at 7:30. So make sure you're here till 7:30 to get your chance for the book. And Q&A will be at the end. You can put your questions in the Q&A screen, or you can let us know and we'll unmute you so you can ask them at the end. Now, Steve, it's my pleasure to turn everything over to you.
Naomi, thank you so much. Randy, great to be connecting with you again. Cameron, as always, thank you for hosting these things and the kind of brilliant leap to do these combined groups. By the way, this is officially my 5,000th Zoom meeting. I got a lovely note from Conrad Zoom himself today. I have no idea how many meetings it's been, but it feels like we've done a lot of them. But I think having a large group this way was really until we can meet again in person, and I think we can all taste that, it's wonderful to enlarge the group. Let me share my screen, get things set up here, and we'll plow right in. So why dashboards fail and what you can do to ensure they succeed, or maybe some of the reasons dashboards fail and what you can do. I am Steve Wexler. I'm the founder and principal and sole employee of Data Revelations. As Naomi pointed out, I'm an occasional band leader. You heard the band The Top Shelf playing a couple of songs from when we used to perform live at the Cutting Room in Manhattan. And I am the author of 2 books. The first, I had the privilege of working both with Jeffrey Schaefer and Andy Cotgreave on the Big Book of Dashboards, and that's really geared towards the practitioners, the people who are going to be creating charts and dashboards. The new book, the focus is on the people who are going to be consuming charts and dashboards. And in working this practice for however many years, I'm realizing, and maybe you share the same frustration, a lot of people don't get how transformative data visualization can be to their organizations. They don't buy into it yet. And that's my passion now, which is to get everyone to see just what it is that we, the practitioners, are bringing to the table and how much it can help the organization. I show this in virtually every presentation I give. You are encouraged to disagree with me. The forum for this makes it a little hard for you to make your argument because I'm the guy who's speaking right now and I have the cool clicker. But during the Q&A and when we open this up for Q&A, if something isn't resonating with you or your experience is different or you have a different idea, chime in. Good stuff happens when we debate these things. And I'd like to think we're all kind of on the same page with, we're trying to get people to see that just the numbers, just the spreadsheet of values or poorly rendered data visualizations isn't good enough, isn't cutting it. This is an amalgam of every client I've had over the last 15 years who just clings to their spreadsheets or does that cruel thing to a dashboard designer. Can you give me a button that will allow me to download this as a CSV? But essentially, this person is saying you can have my spreadsheet when you pry it from my cold, dead hands. And what they want to see is this, and it's really hard to glean insight from this. Folks just don't get it yet. But let's talk about how we're trying to bring people up to speed. Just how is it that we're going about educating our audience? And I'm going to show you this image. And goodness, just what is this thing? I think a huge part of why our dashboard initiatives fail is because of how we educate our audience to use and appreciate data visualization. And this gets me to this production still from an episode of Night Gallery. This is from Night Gallery from 1971, an episode called Hell's Bells. What was Night Gallery? It was an anthology series created by Rod Serling, the same person who did The Twilight Zone. And it had a lot of the same twisted stuff going on in it. In any case, I saw this as a kid, and it had made an impression on me. And let me give you the setup for this thing, which is, that's John Aston, by the way, the hippie looking guy, Gomez Adams from the Addams Family. He's in this car crash and he ends up in the waiting room to hell. And he's excited about it because, oh man, I want to see the fire and the brimstone. I want to see Satan. I want to see, Hieronymus Bosch. This is great. And he's waiting in the waiting room and they're playing this awful vapid music. And there's this couple that just came back from their honeymoon in Hawaii and they're showing slides. And then you've got this crop farmer over there talking about the challenges of the crops on the plain. And he's just tired of being in the waiting room. And he says, hey, enough with this waiting room. When do I get to see hell? And Satan appears. He says, well, hell's never what you expect it to be. It's a curious thing, but they have the exact same room up there. Points to heaven. You see, while this room is absolute hell for you, up there it is someone else's idea of heaven. So remember, I'm a kid at this point seeing this thing. So this idea that the same place that's somebody's heaven is somebody else's hell, whoa. And why am I bringing this up? Because I kind of have the same conflicted view of this chart. If you haven't seen this and you're a data visualization practitioner, I'm surprised, but boy, this thing may be getting more prominence and attention than it deserves. And that comes about from the first popularizer of this chart, Edward Tufte, in his 1983 seminal book, The Visual Display of Quantitative Information, where he states, this may be the best statistical graph ever drawn. And the amount of ink spent on this particular chart, here it is rendered, translated into English. Bernard's attempt to show Napoleon's failed campaign to conquer Russia between 1812 and 1813. This is what that weird shape is. This is modern day Lithuania. And I'm not going to get into how to read this chart. I think it is something that people should know. And I think it would be even as something civilians should know, but more in a history class or a data visualization appreciation class. I can't help, by the way, looking at this thing through a modern prism and thinking what Menard's requirements would look like now. Okay, show on a map where the campaign started and where it ended. Show where the troops traveled. Show how many troops were alive at key points on the journey. Make it clear which line depicts the onslaught and which is the retreat. The weather was a big factor during the retreat. Make sure to show the temperature during key parts of the return. When you highlight those key parts, we need to know the date too, when those milestones were. By the way, yeah, it all needs to fit on a mobile device. All right, so that is one of this vaulted, hallowed charts. If that's the Mona Lisa of data visualizations, this next one, a chart that changed the British healthcare system. Sorry, that should that changed British healthcare. Maybe this is the David, and it is. I'm wondering how many of you have seen this. Boy, has this been making the rounds the last 3-4 months. This is Florence Nightingale's rose chart, also called the wedge chart. I think she preferred the term wedges, showing the effect of changing sanitary conditions at the Scutari Hospital in Turkey during the Crimean War. This chart changed the British healthcare system. So what do some people say about this? Here's R.J. Andrews, one of my favorite data visualization scholars and historians and also practitioners. He does incredibly good work and has the wonderful book Info We Trust. And he says critics suggest that Nightingale's mortality data is better shown in something more straightforward like a bar chart. But that's not true. Florence Nightingale made lots of bar charts. No one cares about them. Her roses gripped 1858 readers and they still hold our attention today. And here is one of mine, and I think many people's heroes within data visualization. I believe Nightingale's goal wasn't just to inform, but also to persuade with an intriguing, unusual, beautiful picture. A bar graph conveys the same message effectively, but it may not be as attractive to the eye. All right. We're trying to get people up to speed with data visualization, either the people who are going to be consuming it or the new practitioners. And what do you think the reaction is going to be to this? Tufte calling the Menard chart maybe the greatest thing ever, the greatest statistical graph ever drawn. Oh, I guess I should be making charts like these, right? No, you shouldn't be making charts like these. And in my head, I hear Lewis Black saying those words. No, you should be making charts like these. He has anger issues. And in fact, let's get some second opinions from some people about these charts. So here is Seth Godin, marketing guru, author of The Practice, Permission Marketing, This is Marketing. And here's what he had to say about Menard's famous chart. I think this is one of the worst graphs ever made. Tufte is very happy with it because it shows 5 different pieces of information on 3 axes. And if you study it for 15 minutes, it really is worth 1,000 words. I don't think that's what graphs are for. I think you're trying to make a point in 2 seconds for people who are too lazy to read the 40 words underneath. By the way, Stephen Koslow, who's the former chair of the Department of Psychology at Harvard University, writes in his book, Clear and Point, 8 psychological principles for compelling PowerPoint presentations. He says that the Menard chart violates all, kind of perceptual, qualities. It kind of violates the things that people will do well, the amount of data that you're asking them to ingest. So how might you redo this chart for a modern audience? And I think people have seen this tongue-in-cheek version of this thing, which is, well, let's really simplify the main point. Here's how many people survived, and here's how many people died. A nod of appreciation to Jorge Camoes, data visual practitioner out of Lisbon, for allowing me to include this. I doubt he would ever simplify something as nuanced as that, but you get the point, and the point should be, who is your audience? What's the message? And it has taken me 15 years to distill what I think I'm supposed to be doing down to a single sentence. Provide the greatest degree of understanding with the least amount of effort. The least amount of effort for your audience. You may have to be working really hard. Now, understand, Menard and Nightingale absolutely knew their respective audiences really well. Nightingale said she was creating the charts for the vulgar public. Who is the vulgar public? She was particularly thinking about Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, but also the heads of the military and other heads of government. If you read this excellent book from Sandra Rengren, The Menard System, about the assumptions Menard had about his audience, a sophisticated audience sitting at a drawing table with a ruler. With a ruler. When was the last time? Can you imagine showing the Nightingale chart to a busy executive and she or he saying, wow, this is fascinating. Where's my protractor? I really want to study this thing. Incidentally, it was in writing the new book that I became familiar with the Menard system and all the charts that Menard, who was a civil engineer, wasn't someone who was doing data visualization as part of his job. It was something that helped him better understand the data so that he could be a much better civil engineer. There are charts in this book that have way more applicability within business than the infamous or Napoleon campaign. By the way, something else I want to encourage you to look at, Robert Kosara recently took this chart on and a discussion of it. There's a wonderful YouTube video. You can just look up Kosara Menard on YouTube, and he talks about what's in, what it shows, what it doesn't show, but he uses this term, hapax legomena. And it's whoa, I've never heard that. It is a Latin term meaning for a word or phrase or something that is only done once in the entire Bible, this word is only uttered once. In somebody's entire canon of work, they only made this type of chart once. It's a one-off. The Menard chart is a one-off. By the way, when I see this hapax legomenon, I can't help thinking that it's like a Harry Potter curse. It just sounds that way. All right, so that's kind of the first piece of this is, do you really understand the needs of the audience, how they're looking at things, is what you're making appropriate for them? The other is why collaboration is critical. And I'm talking about the practitioner collaborating with the stakeholders. Here's one of the heroes of the big picture. This is Troy McGinnis. He's the head of Focus Objectives, and they help organizations with their development initiatives. And he called me up out of the blue to describe this engagement. This is a company that is, the visualizations are being embedded in part of their product, and their visualizations aren't very good. So the part of the success of the product relies on good visualization. We want you to come in and you're going to bring them up to speed with the particular tool they're using. It was Tableau. But also, we're going to have the developers there. We're going to have marketing. We're going to have sales. We're going to have some of the ultimate end users in, and we're going to kind of be jamming on this. We said, wow, this sounds like a terrible idea. It sounds like dashboard by committee. The aphorism that that a camel is a horse designed by a committee, and I thought it would be a disaster. It was amazing. I was so wrong. Troy led a clinic on how to engage with the stakeholders, quickly iterate, turn stakeholders into active collaborators who would later promote adoption once the dashboard's released. The stakeholders were now co-authors, and they took pride in the new dashboards. There was almost a pride of authorship, but there were two things that were happening. One was, so I was kind of the data viz person, and I was bringing them up to speed with, oh, well, what are the questions we're trying to answer? Well, let me show you some ways that I think are clearer. And what do you think of this way versus that way? So you're starting to teach them some of these things. Well, here's why the bar chart is going to work better than the packed bubbles, I think. At the same time, they're schooling me on what I think is clear may not be so clear to them, or understanding, hey, here's what they're looking for, their situation, their pain points, and this, gee, I need to get feedback, or my intended audience, I need them to be involved with this thing. So the churn dashboard that made it into the big book of dashboards, which is, hey, we're trying to track how many people came in, how many people left, what our net was. I went through tons of different iterations of this thing, and I needed to get feedback. Is this clear? How could I make it better? Do you understand it? Eventually ending up with something like this, which I never would have ended up had I not gotten the feedback from the stakeholder during the whole process of iterating. Here's the other version of the "you are encouraged to disagree" slide. It came about when I was doing my workshops. And I would ask attendees, hey, how would you visualize this data? The way to read this was, hey, we asked the question before a course and after a course. And do you enjoy being in nature? And before the course, only 15% said yes. And after the course, 97% said yes. And then I'll ask attendee, how might you visualize this? And then I'll show them a few ways. This is probably be my preferred way, before, after, and then the connected dot plot, or a gap chart, which is the terminology I first heard Randy called this a gap chart versus a dumbbell or barbell chart. And I really like calling it a gap chart. So I went through some different iterations and I said, oh, I think this would be fine as well. The next day, I'm really glad this attendee said, I really was confused by this chart. I said, really? And I'm glad she said something, and it's why I said, I want you to give me pushback on stuff. She was confused by it. It seemed really easy to me. This is like it's kind of a slope graph thing, but it's a distributed area chart. Oh, I started at 15 and ended at 97. Hey, I started at 45, I ended at 92. Super easy to read. And she said, no, I got confused by the shapes. I thought you were asking me to compare the area of the shapes. And I was thunderstruck. I went, boy, you're right. I'm so used to reading this thing. Said, well, how about now? Is that better? And she said, much better. And it was just a minor adjustment. By the way, the thing I thought looked cooler actually made it harder to read. The importance of you, the practitioner, having direct contact with someone who's going to be using your stuff. This is chronicled brilliantly in this great book by Safi Bahcall, How to Nurture the Crazy Ideas That Win Wars, Cure Diseases, and Transform Industries. And talking about the development of one of the most important scientific initiatives during World War II, this thing, the Planned Position Indicator, radar. And I got to tell you, radar on planes, where it was being implemented at first, was a bust. Early aircraft radar, for example, was practically useless. Pilots ignored it. Vannevar Bush, who was the dean of engineering at MIT, and he headed the US Office of Scientific Research and Development, made sure why, and that the pilots went back to the scientists and explained why they weren't using. The reason had nothing to do with the technology. Pilots in the heat of battle didn't have time to fiddle with complicated switches on the early radar boxes. The user interface was lousy. Scientists quickly created a custom display technology, the sweeping line and moving dot, now called the PPI display. And pilots started using radar. So please, these peoples are not your adversaries. These people are not your adversaries. They are your stakeholders, and they should be your collaborators. Get them involved, and you'll make better stuff. So I'm going to give you a very short recipe for success with this. You need someone around who knows the data and the subject matter. I came in as the data visualization person, but saying, hey, what's the field that you use for this? Having someone around who knows that, somebody who knows what visualizations would work, that was me in this case. Stakeholders who have skin in the game, the people who need, who will use this thing, who will sell the thing. Data visualization tool that allows you to iterate quickly, key. You don't want this thing to go, oh, that's a cool idea. Let's come back in 2 weeks once we've implemented. No, you want to come back in a half hour or maybe an hour and a half or two. A facilitator that steers the discussion. That was Troy. I have done both roles as the data viz expert. Troy's way better than I am. And no jerks. And I say this not flippantly, but if there's someone there who's just like says, no, we're going to do it my way. No, I think you're wrong. You're not going to succeed. You need to be fairly open to this stuff. I do want to get someone who knows what visualization would work well with the data, and because this is kind of our opportunity to educate our audiences about what they should be using and why. But before I do this, I want to give you a little second opinion on why dashboards fail. This is Nick DeBarat. And he has a wonderful presentation that you can find, the real reason so many dashboards disappoint users. Nick, by the way, has inherited or has taken over, essentially taken over Stephen Few's practice. So I think Nick is great. He has a wonderful presentation on why most dashboards fail. I see eye to eye with a lot of it. He thinks it's important that we understand the taxonomy of the 13 different types of displays that are all, unfortunately, all called dashboards. I'm not convinced we need that, but you may go, oh my God, that's incredibly valuable. So just as I hipped you to the Robert Kosara stuff, I would say, hey, look up Nick Desbarat and why dashboards fail, be worthwhile. There's another piece of this whole thing of we're trying to get people to use the stuff we're creating. And I see this as pretty important as well. What are we going to do to engage people, to get them to gravitate towards these things? I'm not talking about making something that's beautiful. I'm talking about something that is making something that is meaningful. And I do not have the graphic design chops that a lot of my colleagues do. You know, Randy can, literally draw circles around me and figuratively draw around them, as probably can half the people who are attending this right now. So, well, how do I get people to use the stuff I'm making? And so what engages people? It's stuff about themselves. I'm not saying make an ugly looking dashboard, but I'm saying if you can make your audience the focus of what you're doing, they're probably going to be pretty interested in it. And I know a lot of you have seen my presentations, know I like to cart this thing out. It's a histogram showing the age distribution. By the way, it really is a histogram, Naomi. I'm using the term correctly. It's not just a bar chart with wide bars. Those things are binned continuously. In any case, this is showing the age distribution of people in the United States. This is as of 2019. The way to read this thing is newborns. There are roughly 3.7 million of them. 30-year-olds, there are about 4.7 million of them. And then, people see this thing and go, hey, what's going on over here? Around 72, 73, suddenly people are dying. I find this fascinating. My friends and family, not so much. But I have this interactive dashboard which becomes magnetic because people can click their age bar and see how much older or younger they are. And then they'll filter it by men or women. Then they see how much older they are than other people. Then they want to look at their partner, their kids, their parents, their much older brother. You get the idea. By the way, if you're curious about what happened here, it's not people dying. This is right here around 73, 74 when this, remember this is 2 years ago. That's the cusp of the baby boom generation. So it's not that suddenly people are dying at 72 or 73, it's that so many more people were born starting in 1946. I do want to give you this, the audience in mind and inserting them, because I had a maybe the most profound data visualization moment in my career 7 years ago. And it changed everything for me. And I said, my God, that was such a high. I want to do this again and again and again, because I saw how potent data visualization can be. Let me give you the setup. I was working for a major healthcare company. They had data on thousands of companies and millions of people. Their goal was to save costs, but also save lives through compliance. How can we get buy-in from these companies? Get them to take this seriously. Make sure people are taking their medications, that they're dying and that they're eating properly. And they would show a slide like this. The incidence of diabetes in your organization, it's 18.5%, but the average of all other organizations like yours, 4.9%. It got concerned looks, but it didn't really hit people. There was nothing to persuade. So we created a sequence of slides to try to get the point across. Here are 790 dots. Each dot represents a different organization. Dots near the bottom have a low incidence of diabetes. Dots near the top, a high incidence of diabetes. It's pretty hard to see that there are 790 things here. So let's just kind of scatter them left and right. And you can see, oh, okay, way more dots down here. We then built this demarcation line. If you are above this line, you are in the worst 1%. Here's where your company is. And the reaction to this versus the other thing was palpable. And I saw how a data visualization where I made the audience the focus of things, the focus of the dashboard, of the presentation, it was the first time that I had seen that type of reaction to something that I had made. Talk about a book that had an effect on me, because it relates to this. It relates to thinking about my audience. Before writing the big book of dashboards, Kelly Martin, who a dear friend and sadly died a couple of years ago, she suggested I read this. Badass, Making Users Awesome from Kathy Sierra. What's up there? That was what I was supposed to take away from the book. People don't want to be badass at using your tool. They want to be badass at what using your tool allows them to do. That's not what I got from the book. In reading the book, it was, how is what I'm doing, what I'm presenting, what I'm writing going to help? my intended audience and what is my audience looking for at any particular point. This kind of informs everything I do. You know, you've all seen this, the typical agenda slide when you're going to a one-day workshop or something like this. But think about it. What is it? What's the one thing that people really want to know? This is what they're looking for. So I hope you'll keep that in mind. So it goes back to who is your audience? What's the message? And again, provide the greatest degree of understanding with the least amount of effort. So again, so why are these initiatives failing? And I've been involved with plenty of failing dashboards. And more importantly, how can we succeed? So all these things I've showed you, starting with the probably don't try to emulate Menard or Nightingale, bringing your audience, your stakeholders up to speed, getting them excited about data visualization and how it can be transformative is a huge part of this. But also you need to be really understand what their needs are, the stuff that's keeping them up at night. So I would say you need to educate your audience and your audience needs to educate you if you really want to succeed with this stuff. And I'm hoping this will help you educate your audience. New book, The Big Picture, How to Use Data Visualization to Make Better Decisions Faster. You can download a free sampler from this from bigpic.me. So go to bigpic.me, download the sampler, and then if you like it, please purchase the book. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And we can move to the moderated Q&A.
Hey. Nice job, Steve. Before we do that, let's give Steve a big hand.
Oh, thank you. And the URL, thank you very much. Yeah, very happy. Oh, wait, claps are coming in there. So let's wait for the
big claps in the chat.
It's Big Pic. Look, the name of the book is The Big Picture. And I just wanted a small URL. And by the way, Naomi, I cite you in the book, and Randy helped me out with a graphic reenactment of two absolutely horrible charts. And Randy and I didn't want anyone to think that Randy would ever make something so misleading. So it says graphic reenactment by Randy Crum.
Yeah, to purposely make a bad chart.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Randy, when I'm thinking I need a bad chart, who's the first guy
Who's am I going to call? Yeah.
Who am I going to call? So it's bigpic.me. So
you're going to drop that in the chat.
Yeah, I'll take care of that. Bigpic.me. There you go.
All right, so we have a couple questions. If anybody has any questions you want to add, drop them in the Q&A window. We'll go through a few of these while we're talking, but feel free to add more questions as we go. Yep, I can see the bigpic.me. It's all about you, Steve, not me.
The other thing is I'm so scared of running long on these things. I trim content, etc. And it was like, okay, this is it didn't run long. So I don't think anyone has ever said, gee, I really wish this guy were more long-winded. So
all right. So let's go through a couple questions.
Randy, I'll let you both. There's questions.
So this is a long one from William in the Q&A. So it's a good question. So it's about helping your users understand what you're showing them. So what a good starting point so the end users don't feel embarrassed or insulted at their analytic skills be to make some examples of the same data like the slide provided with this process to see where people were at and what they feel comfortable viewing. Then how do we work with those end users to lift them up to a higher level of analytics, mini classes, small introductions of higher different styles? Like, I guess maybe how do you migrate them from what they're using today to something that's a better visualization or a better way to look at the data?
William, you're really on to an important thing. I think, Randy and Cameron and Naomi and others believe no one wants to be embarrassed. No one wants to come off as seeming stupid. And it's there may be even more pressure. Someone who's a senior executive, and it's like, well, I can't let people know I don't know how to read a scatter plot. So rather than saying, you know what, I'm having trouble understanding this, can you take a few minutes to walk me through it, because I think it could be really valuable. Instead, it's, oh, I don't, these charts and graphs, they don't do it for me. It's not providing insight. So part of this is increasing gently and in a nurturing fashion the graphicacy, it's a wonderful made up word, of everyone throughout the organization. And how can you get people up to speed? Look, not to be self-serving, but this is kind of a huge reason for the book, The Big Picture. Gee, if everyone read this, they come in, over the weekend, and at least they'd have kind of a baseline understanding of these things. The other is, if they're kind of insist on bad chart types, you don't want to come in as the, hey, I'm the expert, I'm right, and say, well, hey, what are the questions we're trying to answer? Let's try these 2 or 3 different approaches, and which one gets us to the aha faster? We should probably use that one. So I thought that was a great question.
I'll just add on some chart types you find that maybe we as practitioners are fascinated or enamored with, but just general audiences just don't get it. They don't like those chart types. They find them confusing. They don't.
Hey, Randy, did you see, anyone, maybe 2 months ago, PBS had a documentary on Ernest Hemingway. And Ernest Hemingway is known for his clear, straightforward, declarative prose. I remember studying him as a freshman or a fresh person in college, first year in college, there we go. And along with T.S. Eliot and James Joyce. And I found James Joyce absolutely impenetrable, and Ernest Hemingway, I'm getting this and I'm enjoying this. I cannot help but thinking, if Ernest Hemingway had done data visualization, he never would have created a chord diagram or a sand key. Okay, just
okay. There was another moving around.
Doran, your question about what's wrong with freshmen, it's gendered. Are there neutral ways of expressing the same thing? And yeah, I guess they are. Just because we're used to it one way doesn't mean we have to continue to do it that way. And I was certainly a very fresh person as an undergrad, so I think it's a fine.
No, I wasn't very fresh at all. I stank.
There we go. Question, sorry, I'm just seeing it. The Big Picture is available as an ebook. I tend, and please get it in whatever format you like. Personally, my problem with ebooks is I like having a 2-page spread, because often you have text on one page that talks about an image on another page. And it can be annoying to go, well, where's the image? Oh, now I see the image. Well, where's the text that talked about it? Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you there, Randy. Go ahead.
All right, so Gabriel asks, the radar story was very interesting. Are there any good examples of the early radar interfaces that were rejected?
I don't know. A friend of mine hit me to Safi Bakal's book, and I would say contact Safi Bakal and say, hey, could we see what it was that didn't, what it was that the pilots went, this isn't cutting it. That's it. It's kind of interesting to see the before and after stuff of any type of innovation, like early versions of an iPhone or of a computer. So there's someone someplace who would be able to go down that rabbit hole and actually bring back that rabbit for you.
Will asks, what about the benefits of the novelty for grabbing attention? Definitely not good for internal business context, but maybe for outreach.
That's, Randy, you've heard me talk about this, is that I don't live in that world that much. Most of my stuff is for internal consumption, or maybe it's customer facing. I don't have what I call I need to capture somebody's attention. I'm making an infographic for Wired magazine, and they're on page 13 where my infographic is. How am I going to stop them from turning the page? So you need to have that proper balance of aha and ooh-ah. And maybe you are sacrificing a modicum of analytic. The best people can do both. I'm a big believer of aha first and then ooh-ha, but that audience, gee, maybe I have to do something because I need to grab them and keep them here.
I would agree with that. You don't have to go all the way to chart junk,
Yep.
right? But you do have to not only tell a clear story, but you have to grab their attention to begin with. You need some sort of visual attention or something to that effect.
Hey, I'm seeing the radar story. Well, I talk about the radar story in the big picture, so there you go. It's called loon shots. So there's your indirect way to get to
Oh, is that where it comes from?
Yeah, it comes from the book Loon Shots from Safi
Okay.
Bahal.
Is there a best practice for getting requirements for data visualizations?
I'll defer to other people here. I don't know. It's a meeting of the minds, and I'm a little reluctant about somebody creating a document that has, it has to have this, it has to have this, it has to have such and such, versus the kind of interactive and iterative. Well, do you really need to see that, and why is that important? So I don't have the live interactive and iterative building of the requirements have worked for me. I don't know how easy it is to just say, oh, and now just go ahead and do that thing in your organization.
And go do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this thing that worked really well for me, we'll do that. While someone says, here, thud.
I know we use a creative brief to start the process, but it is just the start of that process. And you start that conversation. Do you have any checklist or set of questions that you start that process with?
I don't. I probably should. That I'm thinking about usually I'm brought in and it's either this is a mess, we can't make any sense of it, or is we think we want to make something that looks like this, or we're doing this by hand and it's taking forever. If we do it using name of tool, can we do it faster? And that usually starts the discussion of, well, we can do it faster, but there are better ways to show this than what you're doing here. And that leads to that particular type of discussion.
Gabriella's got a great question here, because there's a difference between just straight data viz versus designing for dashboards. So her question is, when it comes to dashboards, I always have this problem that I'm not sure what story the data will give each day in the future. So it may turn out that when the data is refreshed, the design I've set up will no longer be valid. What are the best practices for this?
Well, I'm going to say something that may come off as a little controversial, and I think Nick DeBarra would totally agree with me on this. And then I will back into what the dashboard is for and what the story you tell about what you found in the dashboard. I think it's fine for a dashboard to be boring. And I don't think you should be telling stories in dashboards. The presentation that you curate around what you found in the dashboard, that should be riveting. That should be amazing. So, the dashboards that I've seen that try to tell stories are these things I never see exist in business. They're these long form dashboards that just, and they're kind of bad scrolly telling attempts. And we're going to see a whole bunch of them in the Tableau Iron Viz competition feeder where, oh, I need to be graded on storytelling here. So I have to tell a story. So I've got this dashboard that just goes for miles. And so you remember, I don't agree, see eye to eye with Nick in the 13, the taxonomy of different chart displays and how valuable it would be if everybody, agreed on what these things were. But he said, the dashboards I make, they're boring, but with highlights. And it just totally cracked me up. And said, but he pointed something out. He showed this really exciting, colorful mess. And he said, well, someone looking at this, do they have any idea what's going on? No. And are there critical things that need somebody's attention? And I always say, when I'm seeing somebody's work in progress, I'll ask them, I got to tell you, I'm a professional chart looker at her, and I'm having trouble parsing this dashboard. So you tell me, based on what you know about the data, should I be hyperventilating or celebrating right now? And they say, oh, you should be hyperventilating. Really? Is there something you could do to show me where on this dashboard I should be stressed out? Could you put a couple red dots next to things and say, oh, yeah, that would probably be pretty useful. The little red dot, the smallest thing on your friggin' screen, is the thing that's going to draw more attention than anything else. So the maybe something which is just kind of highlighting, it's really hard to have a dynamic annotation layer on a dashboard. The thing that calls out. Not only is there a little dot, but it's saying everything that's wrong about the thing. That is tough to do. And I think that's kind of the thing that you're running into there. And I don't know if you necessarily want to do that in a dashboard versus this is going to help curate the results and the findings into 3-4 amazing bullet points that's going to help somebody use this today's finding.
I think you're right. I think dashboards aren't trying to tell stories. They're trying to highlight things. So your jitter plot example of the diabetes, you were telling a very specific story and trying to get one specific insight across to your audience. That's not a dashboard, right? A dashboard is separate, and it may change daily, and you've got to have the chart that can handle data that changes daily.
Now we have, but you'll arm that presentation with the dashboard. So you could, so let's say, oh, you have it for all our different divisions and you showed our worth. I'd like to see this division. So instead of having a deck with 52 things and then go, oh, let's go to the dashboard, and I'll just click and say, oh, you want to look at your division? Oh, you want to look at your division because you're doing great, right? And you want me to bring that up in front of everybody. So that's usually where the dashboard is. The question that didn't get the question that wasn't answered in the presentation, the dashboard can instantly answer that question on the fly.
Mm-hmm. Jill's got a good one, very similar. So thank you for your thoughts. This was great. I'm curious about your opinion on observations versus insights. There seems to be a big push for users to gain insights every time they view a dashboard or look at data. But to me, sometimes just noting or observing trends, et cetera, can be important and motivating too.
I think you're spot on with this type of stuff. It's like, is every morning I'm going to find something which is going to change my world? No, it's
you don't want
like
the building burning down every morning.
What you want is something that is that you can use at the moment to let you know, or maybe it's part of a whole alerting system where it's not waiting for you to come to it; it comes to you based on certain thresholds being met. But even I keep coming back to this, I'll see stuff. Robert Kosaris shared something today about this paper from this group called the Dashboard Conspiracy, about, they're trying to understand what a dashboard is, because, if you ask somebody what a dashboard is, I don't know, it's some screen that has a lot of really crappy charts on it. Isn't that a dashboard? And if you look at the Slack channel that Andy Cotgreave and Jeff Schaefer and I had for the Big Book of Dashboards, 1/3 of all the discussions are our attempts to describe what a dashboard is. And we got into, oh, well, we have the interactive versus static, explanatory versus exploratory, fits on one screen versus multiple screens, etc. And eventually we just, and this is where Nick is saying kind of this taxonomy stuff, Nick DeBra. And eventually we just settled on, it's a visual display of information used to monitor conditions and or facilitate understanding. And that facilitate understanding is sometimes, ooh, I found something really cool. Now I'm not going to show anybody the dashboard. I'm going to make some, amazing infographic. Or I'm using it to monitor conditions and I'm going, oh, this is really good. These two things are really bad. Let me drill down on the things that are doing really bad.
Okay, Gustavo asks, what are your thoughts on single page versus multi-page dashboards? How would you approach or balance this type of design decision?
You do so no one has ever said um, um,
No one?
I want there to be fewer things on this dashboard. You're usually being asked to cram too much crap onto a dashboard, and there's just only so much that people can take in. So the Ben Schneiderman, the creator of the tree map mantra of overview, filter, and then filter and drill down on demand. I'm maybe mangling the exact part of the mantra. I really agree with it. Higher level type of stuff, and then, gee, there is something here that needs my attention. Maybe it unfolds. You press a plus sign. Maybe you click something, it goes to something else. Maybe something else opens. But kind of figuring out that sweet spot of what is the most I can have here without overwhelming somebody, and then, all right, this is going to take you to the subscreen, and I think that's fine. And that's an art of figuring out those pieces. How many pieces, and then where should it go down? Thank
Ben
you.
asks, Ben.
Rusan, overview first, zoom and filter, then details.
Those are later.
Thank you.
That's great.
I love, thank you for filling that in.
All right, Ben. Hi from Philadelphia, Ben. Steve, great job. I mostly agree with your take on Menard's March and how it applies to most of our use cases, but for me and many others, it stopped me in my tracks, blew me away, and led me on this career I've had for the last 10 years. What was the chart or data viz that did this for you?
Wow. I have to think about that. I don't know if there was anything that just made me, fall in love with this stuff. My problem with, so let me, I'm going to think about this. Was there something that I saw that went, boy, I want to make stuff like that. I've certainly seen there's some practitioners out there that just make stuff that I want to emulate and do just insanely great work, but there wasn't any particular chart. The problem that I had with the Menard chart, and the problem I have, all right, I'm in trouble, but he's already banned me from following him on Twitter. So with Tufty and his workshop is connecting the dots between what you're seeing in the workshop and what you need, what will help your organization the next day when you go back to work. And I don't see how, and so you're thinking, oh my God, who doesn't want to make something amazing? You look at the Florence Nightingale thing, not only is that amazing, it changed the world. Who doesn't want to change the world? But those things, how do you apply that to work? Probably shouldn't. Which is why I kind of worked hard. I got a lot of third parties to submit examples for the last chapter of the big picture. If the chapter is called, You May Not Change the World, but You Can Change Your Organization. And it was examples that this changed the way people thought about something that was important to the organization. So the Tufty thing, the Menard chart is an amazing piece of work, for sure. And this was a truly brilliant man. And some of the quotes, some of the stuff he came up with about using color versus length of bars, he was spot on, back in the 1860s. It's just incredible. Hats off to R.J. Andrews for some of the translations he did of his stuff that he allowed me to quote. But that's my problem with the Menard chart. If that worked, if it got you excited about doing this and revealing things, then good. I'm glad you chimed in, because now I feel a little better about the existence of that chart, because I've seen it as doing a lot of harm. But if it got you on a righteous career where you're finding insights and sharing with people, righteous. Yes, exactly. Creating useful flow diagrams, then okay, I don't stand, I sit corrected.
All right, I'm going to jump to this one in the chat, Steve, because Sonia asked if you'd be willing to give a different talk to a group for her. So what's an easy way that someone could contact you?
Carrier pigeon, smoke signals, hire the band for a major event. No, it's easy. It's just I'll type in my email. So the name of my website is datarevelations.com. That's also my Twitter handle. But here's where you can find me. And I will say it was, so the band has not played in a long time, as you can imagine. So it was kind of fun to hear the stuff. So thank you, Naomi, for suggesting I send it.
You haven't tried a Zoom concert?
Um,
Do you have any tips about getting feedback from your potential dashboard users when they are senior executives that you don't have direct access to? How do you persuade busy people who don't necessarily know you as in a simple analyst, not Steve Wexler, to make time for you?
That's a huge challenge, so I
think you just tell them you're Steve Wexler, right? You just
there you go. Hey, look, let's do a virtual background for your Zoom meeting. I'll be there just kind of going like this. And you could be all set. So I'm gonna give you the flip answer, because you said the busy executive. I said, well, that's the problem. We just need to find executives who aren't so busy. And then there won't be a problem with this. Huge challenge, and you may not get it. And in fact, I have some clients who are trying to apply the stuff that I teach in my workshops, et cetera. And there's a chasm between the dashboard developer, and there's I think 2 levels of gatekeeper, at least one level. That's, here's the people who are going to be using the stuff. Here's the people who are making it, and there's some go-between, and that go-between is not doing a great job. And I don't know, it's a change management. I understand. I'm saying, oh, you need to have direct contact with the stakeholders, and you're going, how the hell am I going to have direct contact with the stakeholder? I recognize that's not necessarily an easy thing. Try to find a facilitator, someone who believes in this and says that look, I feel like I'm operating in a vacuum right now. And if there were just some way that we could do this iteratively and shortly, I think it would be wildly successful. You're going to have to find a champion in the organization to help you with that.
All right, this comes up frequently, so and it's a number of these questions here are about tools. So I'm gonna sort of combine these into one question, because it's what's in your tools box. What tools do you find to be user-friendly? What's your go-to tool? What are your thoughts about dealing with the user who thinks Excel is the ultimate tool? So you want to talk a little bit about tools you use, or tools you like, or how you approach choosing a tool?
Well, I can tell you, I'm qualified to say this because a lot of people think I'm a tool. So the important, everything I'm doing now is tool agnostic. It's about what you should be doing and why, and not about how you realize it in any particular tool. You can do some amazing things in Excel. You're often fighting the tool because it wants to send you down this path, and you want to be going this other way. My tool set consists of Tableau, Excel, and PowerPoint, and once in a while, and I'm not very good at it, Illustrator. I would like to get better at Illustrator, and I would like to get better. I'd like to learn how to use R. That be really well-rounded. I've been using Tableau for literally 15 years, and it's able to do my bidding. I'm able to iterate really quickly with it. But the stuff that I'm preaching is not about the tools. It's about what you should be doing and why. So that's my stuff. I know other people have, other tools that they love: MicroStrategy, Click, Power BI, D3, Python, etc.
There are hundreds of tools.
Flourish, Data Wrapper,
Yep.
Juicebox.
This might be maybe too much to do on the fly. Asking you, can you show some example figures that are in I'm assuming your new book that you are particularly excited about? That might be too much to pull up on demand unless you want to hold your book up.
Hey, thank you. And I do like showing, sharing the images and stuff like that. Um, the there's some fun ones just right in the free e-sampler that you can get, including the whole diabetes example is in there as well. Um, I don't think there's anyone that go, oh wow, I'm this one really proud of that one. It's more, nothing leaps to mind in the same way that, gee, was there something that just went, oh, I want to be doing that with data visualization, the thing that kind of got me excited about it. So I'll have to think about that. So, and I'll think next time somebody says, is there some, oh my God, that is just, look at that. I got to get this book. Look how cool that looks. So nothing leaps to mind.
Okay. When to use interactive versus insightful static visualizations?
You use the static ones when they work. You use the interactive ones when they work. Oh God, that was talk about the softball easy questions that you've got here.
I think that does go back to the feedback loop, though.
Yeah, and it's kind of the static is I've curated something that I think you will find useful. The interactive is, oh, you had a question I didn't anticipate, so let's go to the interactive version.
When will you be gracing the stage of the cutting room next?
Wow. Well, that's probably no time soon. The last time we did a public performance, by public I mean, hey, nightclub, anyone can buy tickets and show up. That was 2016. The last time the band played private event was 2019, as one might expect. So I don't know if it's in the cards to try to fill a nightclub again anytime soon. We'll see about performing at a private party sometime. Cy Andrews is saying, pretty sure was there in 2016. By the way, there's some great stuff happening in chat. I'm sorry, I'm kind of seeing it and questions and comments, and it's sorry that I'm not able to respond in real time to it. And thank you for that was my grandmother's chair, by the way, the lyre that's there. You're calling it a lyrical chair or lyrical. It's a perfect word for it. She was my piano teacher and many people's piano teacher, and kind of this music type of chair in the background. So thank you for noticing that.
Vincent asks, I agree, others' input is very important. How do you handle when contributors want too much data on a dashboard where it gets to be too hard to read?
Well,
throw more. We need more.
and just say, well, one is, you're going to lose plenty of battles in trying to make your case with stuff. My advice is try to look at yourself as being a major league ball player, and if you just succeed 30% of the time, you're a superstar. So this person who wants all this stuff, and there are two different culprits there. One is too many charts, and the other is the charts are really cluttered. 5 lines, and every single point on the line has a number on it.
Every data point has a data label.
Yeah, and trying to say we really don't need this. Oh, but I need to see every number, which is, by the way, why you could say interactivity as opposed to static, which is, well, here's the thing. If you really want to know what that number is, just hover your friggin' mouse over it, okay? So you do your best to say, gee, I think we're going to overwhelm people with this, or let's try it both ways. Maybe now the two of you don't see this thing with fresh eyes. You both know the data too well. Say, let's bring in, a couple people and just say, hey, do you understand this? By the way, that is a really great way to present your dashboard to somebody. Don't present the dashboard to them. Say, here's this thing I made. Can you understand what's going on? I'm not going to tell you anything. You tell me what you see in this thing. And what are the things that are obvious and what are the things that are confusing, rather than I'm going to present how to use my dashboard. See
Yep.
what happens.
We do that with infographics too. With
Yeah.
infographics and data visualizations, get a third party who wasn't part of the design process.
Well, Randy, the way this, oh, rather than you present the dashboard to me, your stakeholder is going to tell you what he or she sees. It came about in the first time I modified the dashboard design workshop so that the attendees would have like a project to do. So you'd have groups of 4 or 5 doing this project, and then someone would get up and present their project. It was death. They were taking forever to present this thing. It was going, oh my God, this is going to take forever. And I changed it and said, oh no, we're going to change this. You're just going to show your dashboard. I'm going to tell you what I see. So this thing that was going to take 20 minutes is going to take 2 or 3. But it ended up being, oh my gosh, this is actually a pretty good way to vet your dashboard.
Mhm.
Don't present. Ask them to tell you what they see.
All right. Kevin's got a good question. Any suggestions for me searching for a mentor? I'm a director with a data viz team in a corporate company. We're getting good at development. We're working on being better designers, and we constantly bump against the just give me the numbers from leadership.
And I look, I feel your pain, and I've been dealing with this for 15 years. Maybe you can get leadership to read the new book, but a place to look for a mentor. There are a few places that come to mind. One is Data Visualization Society. So datavisualization.org, datavisualizationsociety.org, I believe. The other is start following people on Twitter and see that, you know, who's involved with stuff. Start maybe entering some of the social media projects that are out there. Makeover Monday. One of my favorites is run now by Mark Bradburn. It's called Real World Fake Data, where you can start participating in this stuff. And then the people who manage these things, they're going to give you feedback on your work. Randy, anything you would add to this in terms of it? So
well, I
Makeover
see
Monday-
Kevin mentioned in the chat that he's already in the Data Viz Society on Slack, which is really noisy. I mean, there
Oh,
are
yeah.
you have 10,000 people commenting in the Data Viz Society. So you got to really pick which channels you want to pay attention to. Don't try to pay attention to everything. It's just too much. But that's a good place to start. I'm not sure which channel would be the right place, but maybe post a question in a couple of them.
And you can even ask, where can I get a mentor? I think they're aware that that is a fire hose of fire hoses in terms of Slack. And in fact, I know they're aware of it. So I think this is going to be become a kinder, gentler place. Those Makeover Monday and real world fake data,
Mhm.
here are data sets. Let me create something and people are going to give me feedback on it. Great way to up your game.
Steve, do you use Twitter lists? So I curate a list of data viz professionals, it's about 200 people that it's a public list. Anybody can follow it. If you go to my profile, RT Crum on Twitter, you can see my lists, and it's called Cool Infographics People, because that's the way it started. But it's about 200 data viz people, and you can just see their posts on Twitter.
I have one called lame data infographic people. It's massive. There are thousands.
It's massive. There are millions. And the other thing I would suggest is the meetup groups, right? So I don't know where you are, Kevin, but join your local group, and as you see who's presenting and you meet people in the meetup group, you may find one there as well.
That is a really great idea. And again, kudos to hey, let's combine these meetup groups. It will be, having them in person will be great, but when you can't, this is fun.
And I hope we can come up with a way to do it hybrid. We gotta work on that. Maybe a live event that we broadcast.
My money's on you and Cameron, figuring out how to make a high quality hybrid version of this thing.
Yeah, I think that the Datadog facility can probably handle it.
The studio audience.
The studio audience, exactly.
The live studio audience, let's
we'll go over to 30 Rock and have our meetup event.
Exactly, with Saturday Night Live. Exactly. Let's do that.
Quick check, either Cameron or Naomi. How much time do you want to keep going? I see we've got about 12 more questions still in the Q&A. How much more do you want to go before we do the book giveaway?
I announced, at least to the New York group, that the book giveaway would be 7:30. So let's
About 10 minutes.
do questions and answers till 7:30. We called the meetup an hour and a half. If Steve is willing and if Cameron is willing, we can certainly go longer. Cameron, do you have any conflict come 7:30?
But look, I'm here. I'm here for you folks, but
Okay, the other important person is Cameron, since we're on his Zoom account.
Yep.
But
Hey.
no one has ever said, "Oh, let's go longer on the meeting." But I'm sorry, I keep saying that, Randy. No one has ever said, "Sorry, Cameron, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt."
No worries. I just lost Wi-Fi for a couple of minutes, so I'm catching up.
Okay, the question
we were just-
was, if, do you have any time constraints? If people have questions after 7:30, is that okay with you? I can't hear you.
And it's distressing because he also looks so distressed.
It's just like, oh.
Cameron is on vacation now, and he
Yep.
gave up a day, an evening of his vacation to host this for us.
The righteous dude. Like
Anyway,
Ferris Bueller.
let's keep going till 7:30 and then we'll see.
Okay, we'll go as long as Cameron lets us go. Till he cuts us off. Okay. Here we go. How about Steve? How do we educate users that want to have everything in one chart?
I say whap them in the head. Just go, bad idea.
The
Move
chart
on.
with
Just to say, I'm gonna, this thing is so heavy and late, and I'm gonna take it and hit it against your head and realize what a foolish idea this is. Look, part of this is you're trying to, you are mentoring your stakeholders in this, and part of it is, hey, I think there's an easier way to see this. I recognize you need all this information, and we'll get it to you. But instead of it, all at the same time, look, do you bring out, the appetizer, the salad, the main course, the intermezzo, the dessert all at the same time? Probably not. You do these things in pieces, and you're kind of asking to eat the entire meal at once with the way you're doing this. And would this work for you? Because I think it'll be easier to parse and figure out what's going on with this. But look, it's easier for me because I'm the guy with the book, and they go, well, he's the guy with the book. It can be harder if you're earlier in your career and they're not taking you seriously. So just shoot for, hey, I'm winning 30% of my battles. And you'd be an all-star if you were a baseball player. And once you win a couple of them, meaning, gee, you showed them something they didn't see before, or you said, hey, we're looking at this metric, but I think this one's more valuable, and here's why. Your stock goes up. Oh wow, that was really useful. So don't be bummed out if it gets shot down a few times. It will.
And I think realize it's a journey. It's not one day you're just going to flip the switch and say, hey, we're going to be better at data viz today. It's a journey, and you're going to want to show them the old way, and maybe we try it a new way, but
Yeah.
You're probably going to want to show them both. Tim asks, well, great presentation. Steve, can you share any anecdotes or experience with visualizing graph type data, nodes and edges? Thank you. That's very specific.
and to the point where I'm not even sure what nodes and edges. So clearly, the fact that I'm not resonating, can't even understand the question means I probably don't have a lot of experience with it. Randy, Naomi?
So a lot of graph type data, right, is the connections. So like the Facebook graph data is all your relationships.
Oh, okay.
And that
So
type of
network
stuff.
node diagrams and things like that.
Mhm.
And boy, I'm reading Jared Thorpe's most recent book. Well, it's most recent, his only book, Living in Data. And he has some examples there. I have remarkably little experience with that particular type of network, showing the relationships amongst lots of different entities. So sorry, I'm not much use on that.
Okay, so question. I used to have a stakeholder who constantly asked me to include the CSV download functions for every phase of the dashboard. I tried to guess why, but I couldn't read their mind. What makes users stick to CSV form on top of the visualization?
This notion that they want to play with the data, which isn't a bad thing. It means, gee, hey, your analysis is wonderful, but I also want to have access to it. The thing is, why don't we give this person, access to the back end that's fueling the dashboard rather than these piecemeal CSV files? That makes no sense to me. That says your dashboard is just a mini CSV delivery system for me that has the CSV and lots of little chunklets that I like. So something's wrong there, and it just may be. I'm not saying the person is or is not a jerk, but when I'm talking about, there are some times where this person is not open to possible improvements in this, and there's nothing I can say or do that's going to make them change their mind.
You think it's, I don't know, maybe as the designer side, it feels a little bit like distrust, like they want to double check the data. They want to check behind you. Maybe you didn't get the design right, so they want to check the numbers. I don't know if that's true or not, but as the designer, it almost feels like, yeah, I like your design, but I want to look at it myself.
And I don't, I see nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with someone, I want to explore the data on my own. Because you've got me excited about this and seeing the possibilities. I mean, look, that's the whole reason why Tableau exists. It's this great data democratization. Allow people to access the data and interrogate it the way they want to interrogate it. Same with some of the other tools. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if that's the only reason they're using the thing, then it's a weird CSV delivery system.
Mm-hmm. Elmer asked, how do you feel about animated, aka moving visuals?
When they're done well, the transition effects, you apply a filter
qualifier.
and you see this little thing moving, it becomes this wonderful pre-attentive attribute. Look, all those dots moved a little, this one moved a lot, as opposed to bar chart races or something of the, Andy Cockrey calls it the fidget spinner of data visualization.
You don't like bar chart races?
Andy called it the fidget spinner of data visualization. Okay, so I didn't. There are some things, look, like the Hans Rosling, and someone had asked, I see Miguel and said, who are some of your data visualization heroes? First and foremost, Hans Rosling. Okay, TED Talk from 2006. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, watch it, and please read Factfulness, a book that was published shortly after his death. What true data visualization and global health hero, and someone who will help you feel much better about the world because he is chronicling using data how much it has improved from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, even 25 years ago, and that's so nurturing, especially given the past year. So certainly Hans Rosling. What were you talking about just before that with the never mind. There's some point that you had made, Randy. It was good, and I was just
animation.
Oh,
and you didn't like racing bar charts.
That's what made me think about this. Um, the as a subtle thing to help you see where certain things are changing when you're applying things, it can be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Or it, think about animated bullets in PowerPoint, or dancing. You've seen terrible use of animation in PowerPoint. Well, you're going to see it in data visualization as well.
Excuse me, but it's raffle time.
Speaking of animation. All right, Naomi, this list is everybody who registered. Do you want this to be a must be present to win?
Absolutely, they must still be here now to win.
So we'll need to double check whoever the name comes up that they're still present. All right, so I have downloaded, it's almost 400 names that registered on Zoom. In the wheel of names that will randomly choose a winner for us.
If they are not here, we choose another one.
And then if they're not here, we'll remove them and choose another one. And hopefully this won't take too long to find one present.
Is Sarah McCassin here?
Sarah McCassin. Let me find the attendee list. Is it alphabetical? At least we could look it up.
Well, I think we can do a search in there. Sarah.
Nope.
Nope. Sarah McCassin.
I don't
is
see
not here.
Sarah in the list. Nope.
Okay.
Okay. So remove. Try again.
Need to have the
You're not
sound.
getting the sound effect.
Yeah, there we go.
Emily Peeler.
Nope.
Nope. Galina. Yes, Galina is in the list. Are you still here, Galina? If I'm pronouncing that right.
Ital, Bueller, you're cracking me up on that one. Bueller, anyone?
Is that a name on there?
Okay, she looks like she's here.
She's in the list. You'll have to.
No, she's in the list of people who are still participating.
Right.
Uh-oh, it says, Frederick is saying Galina is a, where are you, Galina? This is your big chance.
Yep. Give us a shout in chat. Let us know you're still here and haven't gone on to dinner while we're doing our Zoom.
She did not.
Maybe using the bathroom. This did run
not
out.
Exactly. Come on. Come on.
Here, Galina. There are some good references here. Yes, I am Spartacus. Thank you, Tony Curtis. Ooh, Tim is saying.
There she is, or he is. I don't know if it's a he or she.
Oh, do we have a list of people who ask questions?
So Galina sent a
Galina's
note
here.
to just the panelists, so everybody can't see that. So Naomi, can you send her a note, because you're gonna have to get contact, or him? I'm sorry, I don't know which.
This is Galina.
Galina Solovieva.
Do you see that note to panelists?
Yeah.
About 4 or 5 from the bottom.
And you probably have it in the CSV file. Or maybe not. I don't know how Meetup gives you access to the.
Okay, if I would have it if she's in the New York chapter. If she's not in the New York chapter, one of the other organizers would have it. But the question is whether if she doesn't respond, if she
She did.
She
She responded.
She
Oh, I didn't-
responded.
Oh,
We
I'm
saw it.
sorry. Then I will get her, I will somehow get in touch with her and get her address to send Steve. All right, at this point, the question is, Steve and I are willing to stay, and Randy. The question is whether our host is available or not.
Oh, now that the drawing is down, we're just seeing people are running out the doors.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
book was everything, Steve.
I know. And also the meetup that wouldn't die.
Yep. And we totally understand if people have to go. We understand.
Okay, the meetup is officially over. I thank you all for coming. But if other people want to hang around and ask Steve questions, and if that's okay with Cameron, it's
Yep.
fine with me.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll leave it running. So you should be.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank
Steve, it
you.
says we got 10 more. Let's see what we got here.
Let me
Hey,
just
and-
make one comment. A number of people have asked whether there will be a recording. My policy is always, we record the session, we send it to the speaker. The speaker then can decide if he or she wants it posted or not. So Steve, it's totally up to you whether we post the recording or not. And you will get it as soon as Cameron has a chance to send it to you. As I mentioned, he's on vacation this week.
No problem. But I will ask you, Cameron and Randy, and go, well, was it good or did it suck? If it was good, sure. But share the recording. If it wasn't so good, maybe. So we'll figure that out. But as long as it was not anything particularly embarrassing or off. Oh no, Billy Bob, we are not giving away.
Billy Bob, yep.
Yeah.
Give away the chair.
9:30. That's not going. So I suspect Naomi will be fine and happy to share the recording, but I thank you for that consideration.
Okay, it will be listed on, if you go to this event on the New York chapter, it will be listed under comments to this event. When I say it will, the link to the recording will be listed under the comments in this. And I will also send the link to all other organizers when I get it. All right, if Randy, you can take over again if there are more questions.
Yep, a handful more. Let's jump to Billy Bob's question since he wanted your chair. Hey, Billy Bob, because I know he's from Dallas too. Steve, I took your visualizing survey data in Tableau class a few years ago, which was great. Has it gotten any easier to visualize survey data in Tableau?
The BBB, B3, the thing was hard then is still hard now, getting the data set up the way that you want it to be. I'm after, it looks likely I'm probably going to offer that course again, maybe at least a couple of times, because I got cajoled into doing it again. So the approach that I would use, for this data, I do this, has changed a bit. I've had different thinking about this. The Likert scale stuff, I had first really was one of the first promoters of the neutrals in the middle, half negative, half positive, which Naomi, I think you were one of the first people to suggest this. And now I've said, no, I think I got to put the neutrals all by themselves on the side so I can see when they're really big and not and have a common baseline. Some of the stuff for doing check all that apply, I'd probably do a gap chart of some type. There's some really cool stuff with set controls where you can easily say, oh, I want to compare the difference between the people I'm selecting and everybody else I didn't select. And then may have a reference line that show the overall. So there are way better things that you can do more easily, but the hard stuff is still kind of hard. Qualtrics will allow you to download the data in a really nifty format. SurveyMonkey they're no longer called SurveyMonkey. Did you see that?
No.
SurveyMonkey has a new name. It's way better. Momentive. is the name of the company. And it's like this whole platform now to help you glean insight. I guess they realized, by the way, I really like that company and the people behind it. I just thought SurveyMonkey was a dumb name. So they,
At
as
least
of
you knew what they
today,
did if it was a business.
they have changed their name to Momentive, which is, oh, that's kind of a cool name. So no, it's still harder than it should be.
Okay. William, thank you. Our company has come a long way, but sometimes when we try to branch out to more intriguing or interactive viz, things sometimes fall flat and don't get used.
The what's the reason for the intriguing or interactive? I'm a big believer of making something as simple as possible, but not simplistic. Not dumbing it down. That's my take. Apparently, there's an aphorism that's been associated with a bunch of really famous people. I heard in Einstein supposedly said,
Oh,
as
yeah.
simple as possible, but no simpler. But I like simple is good, simplistic isn't. So I'm not sure why are you trying to complicate something unnecessarily for the sake of complication, or is it no? We're going to glean better insight. In which case, okay, then maybe there's a reason for it.
I actually think it was Tufty that was at one point talking about where it's if your data viz is was it boring or falling flat, that it's not the data, it may be a design problem, right? It's actually could be the design that's causing the problem, and there are bad designs.
Oh, well, look, the whole way I found out that I was banned from following Tufty was I saw he tweeted something, went, that's really good. And a month later, I went to try to find it, and then I realized I can't find it. He said,
Can't
if
find
your
it
data,
anymore.
and then it was, if your data is boring, try getting some interesting numbers. If you've got interesting numbers, you might learn something interesting. And I went, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. So
I don't remember this, where you're talking about this. How do you approach data question formulation? What makes a good data question?
they usually come out from a good data visualization. That if I'm showing you 3 lines and everything's like this, and one line goes like this for a minute and then comes back up, you probably want to know, well, what happened there? That's the whole point of it, is so that the good data visualization doesn't just answer questions, it should pose new questions. So it's usually the data visualization that's helping you form more and better refined questions.
Better, right? It gets you closer and closer to maybe what the truth is or what's the cause. Devin asked, before the creation of a dashboard, I've had a lot of trouble getting teams or leadership to decide what are the important KPIs. I've done weighting exercises, but they seem to muddle the answers. What exercises do you recommend to identify what delta changes should be in the dashboard?
And I feel remarkably unqualified to
very precise.
Yeah, to tell you how to do this. What should we be measuring? There are people way more qualified on the, hey, we have 492 KPIs. Well, why? And what are the important ones, and what are the things that make it different? Now, I know they're usually nested or hierarchical, at this level, at this level, at this level, and then the highest level. And there are 2 examples that are in the big picture about organizations that are trying to deal with multi-level KPIs and the challenge of it and how to show it, and how to avoid what Mark Regera at Microsoft calls watermelons. Watermelon is green on the outside, but it's red on the inside. You see the overall KPI is green, but there are actually tons of pockets of red that are
Those are
being
problems,
obscured.
yeah, inside.
Because overall, you hit your numbers because you have 10 different divisions, and 6 out of 10 crushed it, and 4 out of 10 were doing terribly, but overall it's green. So I thought that was a good expression.
Could it be, I'm back to Devin's question, could it be the dashboard's trying to serve too many audiences and trying to solve too many needs where the KPIs aren't meeting everybody. And so you might actually need to break it up into a couple API or dashboards to smaller groups.
Boy, does that sound right to me.
You don't know. That's really a question for Devin, but
Yeah. That absolutely sounds right to me. And that's also a problem in the big book of dashboards, was this kind of KPIs at different levels of hierarchy within the organization or within the operations, and top level, and then allowing to drill down. So it sounds like you've got a pretty common problem that's around in a lot of organizations. So we're getting a cool dappling effect from the sunlight on you.
on my green screen.
Yeah, it's great. Don't change it. It really looks cool.
Don't change it. Okay.
Yeah.
Little see through the magic here. Yeah. Let's see if I'm gonna decipher this one. Is dashboarding an art made by tools or designers' ideas? Otherwise, how dash tools helping in making life easier for designers?
I'm missing that one a little bit.
That's what I was trying to decipher it. Is dashboarding an art made by tools or designers' ideas? Both.
Wow, we're getting all philosophical here.
I mean, tools are certainly pushing an agenda. They have defaults, they have templates, they have whatever and starting points, but then designers' ideas are generally what drives updates and what drives the end dashboards and where things go in the future. I don't know.
Sounds good to me, Randy.
Mike, I'm working on a project to help standardize dashboards in an organization using a style guide. Any tips or suggestions in creating shared documentation for an organization besides giving away copies of your book?
And actually, I don't think that in terms of it, a style guide for fonts, colors, layout, what charts to use where. I actually don't think the book would necessarily be that helpful. I know the publication arm of the Data Visualization Society, it's called Nightingale, and they just launched their own website.
On Medium.
On Medium. No, they're now off of Medium. It's now its own as of today. Kind of funny, amazing. Momentum is, Survey Monkey changes.
I obviously wasn't paying attention today.
No, actually, I think it was this. Nightingale was yesterday. I think somebody had a whole, discussion about color guidelines and how to use them, how to incorporate. Oops, just kind of went out of focus there.
Your autofocus has got to catch up.
Yep.
Okay, that was the topic of our last joint meetup, wasn't it, Randy?
Yeah.
John spoke about style guides. So if you want to know about style guides, look at the video from the last joint meetup.
Yeah, John Schwabish at PolicyViz was our last joint speaker, and he's even got a page on PolicyViz where he links to a bunch of known public data viz style guides if you want to see an example of one. And his talk talks about how to distribute that in an organization as well. Okay. Will, no. Does asking more questions give us more chances for the book? No. Book's gone. Vincent, at what skill level would you suggest people who created dashboards to learn R?
In any time in your journey. I'll defer to people who are already down that, to Naomi and and Randy on this.
I have never learned R. I guess it depends if your role is going to include a lot of that data science piece of it, and you're going to need to be able to do that because that's where I think a lot of the R coding tends towards.
Yeah, there are certain things, and I would, sometimes I'll see the stuff that Len Kiefer is doing out of Freddie Mac and go, maybe it would be kind of good to get up to speed with ggplot, et cetera. Cameron, would you like us to leave now so you can go, because I'd kind of like to go get dinner.
Yeah, we can wrap up at any point. I was just going to chime in briefly about the R question, because I think it could be generalized to like at what point one might want to learn a programming language. So I just wanted to share that I started in Tableau before I learned JavaScript and Python. And for me, it was, I had things I wanted to try that I didn't know how to do in Tableau. And it's possible that it could have been done in Tableau, but I saw tutorials that involved such and such language, and it seemed like a smaller ramp. So for me, it was very much like in the moment, that was the tool for the job. And I just did more of it if it helped me achieve certain ideas that I couldn't do in other tools.
Mhm.
And Cameron, what got you to where you wanted to be? What was your learning journey? How did you get up to speed with these things?
I think, so I actually kept using Tableau for a while, and I still use Tableau for, I would say, the sketching part of a project. Because I would compare it to using a Sharpie or Post-it notes when you're in the early stages of an idea. And it's when I'm doing more refined cuts, that's when I'll build custom things with JavaScript and React in my day job at Datadog. Yeah, I think it's good to have tools for different stages of the design process because they let you be productive and get things that you can get feedback on at different rates.
And it's interesting seeing you're not the first person who said that they're using Tableau as their sketching tool. That you usually think of people with the Sharpie or the whiteboard or the Post-it notes and pen and paper. But if you are adept enough at the tool, it can be a great sketching tool.
All right, Steve, we got two left.
All right.
Shannon's asking, how might one register for your survey data on Tableau class?
Well,
It doesn't exist at the moment, does it?
It doesn't exist at the moment. The easiest thing to do is sign up for my newsletter, and I'll announce it in the newsletter, or follow me on Twitter. So I will probably
Back to
be
Data Revelations.
datarevelations.com. And also there's an entire piece of the site. If you click resources, there's like 80 how-to articles around, maybe 80 is an exaggeration, but 50 isn't. Here's how to visualize survey data in Tableau. So there's you may not even need the course. You could possibly go to the website and find everything you need.
All right, and then Gabriel, the last one, a little bit long worded, but simplicity and most information quickly is great for most users. But do you see a place for expert users to shape, guide, and modify dashboards on the fly? Maybe imagine some future holo table sort of thing with a million virtual hand controls. Phrased another way, do you feel like an advanced user is ruining your art when they want to modify the visualization?
So I actually thought you were going someplace else with this, because there's something about, we're talking about time to insight and seeing stuff quickly, but there is something about slow data visualization and getting lost in a thoughtful piece. Something from Randy, something from Georgia Lupi, and something which is, gee, I'm going to sit with this for a while and really study it. The idea of somebody else running with this, that's kind of in the DNA of around Tableau, which is, oh, wow, look at this really cool dashboard somebody made. They posted it on Tableau Public. I want to download it, see how it ticks, and maybe improve it, or maybe come up with a different way of looking at this. There's nothing wrong with that way, but I found a different aspect to the story that I want to share. And so I would say I'm considering that successful if somebody's taking the thing and feeling inspired to craft something around it. So that wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't feel they're ruining it. I've inspired them to take a new tack on it. And Cameron at least is giving me some body language of, yeah, that kind of makes sense to him as well.
How often that happens, but it's certainly easier in Tableau when people can publish stuff to the Tableau site and publish and share it and make the file shareable versus trying to share something you've built in, say, Excel or something like that.
Okay, so Naomi, we're all meeting you down at the corner bar and you're buying the first round, correct?
Of course.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, once again, let me thank Steve for speaking, Randy for all the work he's done for the joint meetups, and Cameron for everything he's done for the New York Meetup Group. We wouldn't have such successful programs if not for you. I thank everybody for coming, and you will shortly hear about the new events that are forthcoming. Take care and thank you.
Take care all. Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
Steve.
It's a lot of fun. And Cameron, thanks for chiming in on that. I would think people would like to hear how you accrued, okay, what did you do to get good at this stuff? But we can save that for another time. Randy, always good to see you, man. Naomi, a pleasure. And we will see each other in person soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.